Here's some maps that'll change the way you see the world. This map shows whether you say drinking fountain, water fountain, or bubbler. I remember the first time I heard my friend say bubbler, I was like, what are you talking about? But drinking fountain. Grew up in California, drinking fountain is all I know it by. So sorry, my Floridian residents that I live by now. This red line around Europe is what it would look like if you lined the Great Wall of China around the continent. I actually just had to take a second. That is absolutely insane. Echo, how long is the Great Wall of China?
It is 13,171 miles long.
13,000 miles around Europe. That's crazy. These maps show how many fast food chains are specifically avoiding New Mexico. This is a map of Culver's that's avoiding it. Shake Shack is avoiding New Mexico. Buc-ee's is avoiding New Mexico. Dave's Hot Chicken is not in New Mexico, and most of everywhere else. I just had Checkers for the first time last night, and that's funny that came up here, but New Mexico, they're not in New Mexico. Jollibee's not in New Mexico. El Pollo Loco's not in New Mexico. In-N-Out is not in New Mexico. They're everywhere else on the West Coast there. New Mexico, what's wrong with you to make all of these places avoid you? Facts about money that will blow your mind. There are 1,700 new millionaires in America every day. There are already 25 million people in the United States that are millionaires today. This means that 7.5% of the United States is a millionaire. Singapore has the world's highest percentage of millionaires in their country, with almost 20% of the entire country having more than $1 million US. Annual supply of water bottles can cost up to $200 a year, while tap water will only cost you 33 cents. King Charles made $34 million in rent income last year. Walt Disney fired the creator of Goofy because he tried to start a union. Money laundering wasn't a crime in the United States until 1986. Due to how much money they generate, 42 buildings in New York City have their own zip code. When we're tempted to buy something, thinking about how many hours it's going to take to afford that thing usually helps us stop. Here's something you didn't know about me. I stopped drinking caffeine for 4 years. I want to tell you why I did something as crazy as this, why I went back to caffeine, and whether or not I think you should stop drinking caffeine. I've consumed caffeine for pretty much my whole life. When I became an adult, I started drinking coffee a lot, but when I was young, my whole life, I drank soda with caffeine in it. This all started for me on May 1st, 2020. The pandemic was just beginning. My life was spiraling out of control in so many different ways. I was very stressed a lot, and I started drinking 2 liters of Diet Coke a day in an attempt to stop drinking regular Coke. The Diet Coke just makes you want more sugar because you're not getting it. So I was drinking a lot of it. I was taking naps in the middle of the day every single day. I was tired all the time. I had no energy from so many different variables because I was so stressed at that time in my life. Obviously overdosing myself on just bad things. And because my life felt out of control, when a YouTube video about the book Caffeine Blues came up in my feed, it was interesting because what the book talks about is how caffeine is this common drug that everyone just accepts and that it's bad for you and that we should all not be drinking it and whatever. I saw that as an opportunity to say, you know what, let me just cut one thing out of my life. It felt like something I could control when my life was out of control. The general idea of what this book goes over and what caffeine is in general is that the chemicals that are inside of caffeine replace the slots where your tired chemicals are supposed to go so that your body can know that you're tired. But instead the caffeine takes place and it's like, you're not tired. I just decided on that day to make the decision to quit cold turkey. I felt, what do I have to lose? Like, it'll help me stop drinking soda, so just stop coffee and everything at the same time. The first 5 days were the worst. I had awful migraines and basically treated that whole week like I was sick. I couldn't do anything and just let myself do nothing because it was bad. For the first whole 3 weeks, I felt dull and drained and just flat in general. Definitely not normal, but the book explained that if you were going to cut cold turkey, this is exactly what was going to happen, and to just wait about 30 days. And I will say after day 30, I did feel like an entirely new person. I had no more 2 p.m. crashes and naps. If I slept less than 7 hours, it would hurt because I felt tired. My body wasn't lying to me. And then when I slept more than 7 hours, I felt normal and balanced and I had energy. I was only going to do it for 30 days, but after I felt that way, I was like, you know what? Life is still crazy. The pandemic's happening. Let's just keep going with it. And that turned into 1 year, and then it turned into 4 years. And through that whole time, I stopped having chronic exhaustion or really big energy spikes up and down. I almost kept going just because it was like something I said, haha, I have this thing I have control over. No, I don't need this because of whatever. During these 4 years, I did miss the ability to do these caffeine crazy brainstorming sessions or like high energy things, but I was happy that I had stability in my energy, and as long as I slept, I would actually feel more energy than without it. So let's fast forward to the 4 years and why I stopped. Well, so I said earlier, May 1st, 2020. It is now April 29th, 2024. My daughter was just born. I knew for the entire time that my wife is pregnant that I was going to probably bring caffeine back in, just to prepare for the lack of sleep and everything involved with it. And I waited 2 days after she was born just to hit the 4 years for really no reason other than just to say. Stupid, to be honest, but I knew going into it I was going to have rules. 200 milligrams is about a cup of coffee, which is about what is recommended for it to not really have too much effect on you daily. And I thought, well, let me drink this amount daily during this harder time without sleep. I've gone from drinking something every day of caffeine to now a couple times a week I'll have a coffee, but it's not a part of my daily routine anymore. And this is the balance that I've found. I don't regret not drinking caffeine for 4 years. I feel like it was a very nice experience to say, hey, I did that, and also felt good that I knew I didn't need it. I also don't regret going back into caffeine. I think the ability to still have this pattern of, I'm not going to do this every day, but to not restrict myself from something like this is truly a lesson that doesn't just apply to caffeine. It applies to pretty much everything in my life as someone who is pretty obsessive when it comes to anything I want to do or try and add or take away from my life. And I want to live a more balanced life. And I've found it. I've found it. And the reason I wanted to talk about this was because if you're in a place where your energy is very sluggish, you're going through a lot in life, you don't feel good every day, there probably is a lot of variables, to be honest. This is not the only thing I had in my life that was a problem, but taking this away did help a lot of things. And some people don't even ever consider their caffeine intake. It adds up quickly. If you're drinking a Starbucks coffee in the morning, a soda a day, a soda at night, you very quickly will drink enough to where you have to live with it to feel good. And it doesn't make you feel good. It just compounds your tiredness over a longer period of time. So yeah, my opinion on whether you should drink caffeine or not, I don't think it's a matter of whether you should or should not drink caffeine. I think just being aware of what your body is telling you is the most important thing. I'm not going to judge you no matter how much you drink. There probably will be days where I drink a lot of caffeine. Maybe I'll go back to drinking lots of caffeine again because nobody's perfect in life and things change and sometimes you fall off the wagon in that way. But I feel good. I've learned a lot now of moderation through this. Yeah, I hope my story helped you think about your situation a little more. Here are some interesting abandoned places that you haven't seen before. This is an abandoned traffic jam in Belgium, which looks exactly like something out of The Last of Us. This is an abandoned bunker that just has a ton of old vintage cars sitting in there. Why'd they leave them all? This is an abandoned ghost village in Turkey known as the Burj Al Babas. It has 587 unoccupied castles, and it looks like something AI made to me, to be honest. This was Detroit's Mark Twain Library, which was closed in 1996 for renovations and never opened again. This was a German expedition cruise ship that hit an uncharted reef in the Sandfly Passage of the Solomon Islands. This is an abandoned theater in Scranton, Pennsylvania. I never saw this in The Office. This is a car graveyard after a Chinese car company went bankrupt and had nothing to do with them. This is the eerie yellow brick road of the abandoned Land of Oz theme park in North Carolina, which actually I think has been reopened possibly since. This is another abandoned theater in Pennsylvania, which is where Scranton is too. Why are y'all abandoning so many theaters in Pennsylvania? This is an escalator in an abandoned mall that was reclaimed by nature. Also looks something straight out of The Last of Us, which makes sense because that takes place 20 years in the future when things are abandoned. I just love abandoned things. Interesting people you've never heard of. This 63-year-old man was arrested after getting his hand bitten off by an alligator because he was illegally feeding it. Anthony Lafredo has had a fascination with looking like an alien since he was a young child. He's had too many surgeries to count to remove parts of his body like his ears and his upper lip and his nose. He even removed 2 of his fingers to look more alien. Australian life. Zion Clark is a professional wrestler that was born without legs. He grew up in foster care and said he was bullied just because he didn't have legs. Australia literally lost their prime minister in 1967 when he went swimming and never returned. Chaser was a border collie who had the highest tested memory of any non-human animal on Earth and was able to identify more than 1,000 toys based on name and categories. This man has spent 35 years restoring over 1,000 acres of forest because when he was 16 years old, he was concerned for the local habitat of the animals nearby and started planting trees. Sam Burns was born with a fatal disease called progeria that causes your body to age rapidly. And even though he passed away at the age of 17, his parents helped him start a foundation and he gave inspirational talks to spread awareness and was remembered as a very happy person.